All right, so how's everybody doing out there? My name is Benny Bernal. I want to welcome you guys to the Americano Grassroots Revolution podcast. This podcast is not based on Republican or Democrat or party affiliation. It's our goal and our purpose is to serve one, and that is God, the Most High. So everything that we do in politics, everything we do in the community is, yes, we run candidates, we want to get people elected, but most importantly, God put something in our heart many years ago, especially in mine, to the point where He even put me in the hospital because I wasn't being obedient. I was tired of fighting the politics. I was tired of trying to get the churches involved, but God made it very clear. You need to wake up the churches. For an example, when the Dodgers were going to honor the perpetual nuns up in Dodger Stadium, we knew, although I'm a Christian, I knew that that could not take place, that an attack on one faith is an attack on every faith. So I had to make sure that we were going to fight and try to educate as many pastors as possible. God told me to use this as an opportunity to bring the Catholic Christians and the Jewish communities together, and that's what we're doing. But it goes beyond that. It goes beyond the 15,000 people that showed up at that protest at Dodger Stadium. Jessica Cabrera's title, she is the CEO and co-founder of Informed Policy Advocates. And she is born and raised. She was raised right here in the Northeast San Fernando Valley. Correct, Jessica?
Yes.
So, Jessica, you want to just say a little bit about yourself really quick?
Absolutely. My name is Jessica Cabrera. I am the CEO and co-founder of Informed Policy Advocates, which is a C4 focused solely on legislation and fixing terrible educational laws in California. As Benny said, we believe that by empowering others and educating our community against these bad bills that are happening, we're able to really rise up and take control of our parental rights and everything that has been taken from us the last few years. So within activating the church, I think, we get the community members to stand up and to be educated and to say enough is enough. I think we need to course correct California and we need to fix this. So our whole goal is to make sure that people are armed with the information that they need to take action and to really fight back against the erosion of our parental rights.
Jessica, when we first met, I knew that it was God who had His hand on us, bringing people together. What I saw was He was putting all the missing pieces of the puzzle together. And those were the people of faith who are not afraid to stand up and speak, and ignore this separation of church and state, which to me is just a total misunderstanding, especially on behalf of many of the pastors. So the reason why we want to do this today is because we want to inform you pastors, you priests, the Jewish temples and synagogues of what your legal rights are, why it's important for you to know how you can get involved in politics as well. We want to share some information. We want to offer some trainings. I'm going to let Jessica talk about that. What it is that we want to offer each and every one of you. We'll bring it to your church. We'll do these trainings there. So that way you can then teach and inform your congregation. Because as long as we continue to not be heard, stay silent within our pews, this is why we're faced with what we're faced with today. This is why the evil has taken over. So Jessica, do you want to just kind of break down a little bit about what rights does a pastor have or a church leader have as far as endorsing candidates, or what can or cannot do?
The church actually has some restrictions, but not as many as they think they have, I believe. Mm-hmm. I think when it comes to the advocacy part of things, that's where they can really be out there and be more active when it comes to educating and letting the community know how to take action and be a part of that change. We, over the past few years, have seen a lot of pastors and congregations actually open up their doors and host people because during the COVID pandemic, everything was shut down. The churches have become, that safe haven for people to come in, ask questions, and really figure out what's going on. And a lot of pastors were brave enough to open up those doors, keep those doors open and say, hey, let us help you and we'll navigate this next road together. So, I think by empowering them, giving them 3 easy steps, it's as simple as what our training will entail is, the legislative process, learning the legislative process, how a bill becomes law, how to fight back against these bad bills that are also happening. The second thing would be how to take action. A lot of people are very upset. They don't know where to turn to. They don't know how to actually make effective change. That's something that's really important to us in our training, is to really detail for people, step by step, how do you make that change, right? You have to control the emotion and funnel that into action so that we can really start moving the tide. The third thing would be community engagement. I think that's really important, and that's something that the pastors thrive in. They are already well connected with their community, with their congregants, and by empowering the congregants as well to have that information, that gets spread out to a lot more people as well.
Now, you mentioned legislative action. You want to break that down a little bit so the pastors understand?
Absolutely. So in these trainings, we actually break down the bill. So we break down exactly what the AB versus the SB means, a total breakdown 101, how the bill becomes law, which committees they go through, how to read if they're a fiscal bill, not a fiscal bill, because the importance of understanding the legislative process comes in handy when you're able to stop those bad bills at every break, right? When you can understand, okay, this bill is going to go to this committee before it's passed on the Senate floor and before it becomes law. I have the opportunity to kill it in this one committee that only has 5 sitting members. If I can convince those 5 sitting members, that bill is dead for the year. So it's really important for people to understand these little pieces of the puzzle that have a really big impact on us in the bigger scheme of things.
So my understanding is that if the churches and the pastors and the congregation get involved early in the legislative process, by taking the legislative action that you're talking about, going to the first committee, which only has 5 sitting members, it's easier for us to try to defeat it.
Absolutely.
Than it is to be later. What would the second step be once let's say it goes, give us an example. What is the first committee?
So usually the first committee is a rules committee. So it would go to the rules committee, which then it is assigned to which committee it would be relevant in. So if we're talking about, a gas bill, for example, that would then go through, the energy committees, various committees that relate to that specific bill. Why I think it's really important to lobby those members is because the chairs on those seats are the ones that are telling that committee how to vote. So if you can get to the chair and say, hey, these are my reasons as to why I think this specific bill should go to 3 committees instead of 1 committee, you now triple your chances at beating that bill in 3 committees versus it only going to 1. So a lot of people overlook that step of just pushing for that advocacy to make sure that these bills are being heard in as many committees as possible if they're bad bills.
Now, how does somebody like, I'm a pastor, I'm at Shepherd of the Hills Church. That's the church that I attend. I know our church is very involved in the political arena as well. But let's just say I'm just somebody, a constituent, right? How do I get involved at that first level? Is there phone calls I make? Is it emails? Do I have to fly to Sacramento?
The first thing I would do, and that what we have done, is actually call your office. I would call my legislative office and say, hi, I'd like to speak with the legislative director that's in charge of this specific bill or this topic. From there, you dialogue a little bit, and then you can ask for an in-person meeting. Hey, I'd like to talk to you about this a little bit further. What we personally do is we engage them, phone call, so that they hear our voice, they know what we're about, and we're not just showing up and popping on them unexpectedly.
Now that anybody can call, right? Anybody. So that's kind of where I was leading to, where it's not just people like yourself who volunteer your time, who sacrifice time away from your family. Because I know you have, is it only 3 children you have?
I have 3 daughters.
Yeah, your 3 daughters that you have, and beautiful daughters, baseball players, softball players. So but I want people to understand that you don't have to have all these degrees and all that. You can be a simple person like myself, a mother with 3 children. You don't have to be paid to go up there. You can just pick up a phone.
Benny, these legislators are there to serve us.
Yes.
They are there to serve the community, and they're there to make sure that their constituents are taken care of. And anybody has the ability to walk into these offices and have these meetings. One thing that we do is we really like to put them at our level. We don't put these legislators on a pedestal. They're everyday people like us. They're everyday community members. They're parents, they're grandparents. So when you approach them in that manner, you're able to take away that intimidation factor. And that's something we really like to encourage the people that we work with. It's scary. It's intimidating. You feel like, I need a degree. I need to be a lawyer. And no, you sharing your story is more than enough. And going back to the rule situation, it's like you can go into these offices. You have your letter ready. Hey, this is my personal story. And this is what my ask is for you. It's as simple as I'm asking you to refer this bill to 3 committees instead of 1. I'm asking you to vote no on this bill because, for example, my charter school options would be limited if AB 84 passed. So there's a lot of things we could do just as community members within our own districts. It doesn't require going to Sacramento. I think some of the best formed relationships have been at the district offices because, like I said, the legislators.
It's more local within your
It's
own
local,
community.
yeah. You're a local girl going into there. You're a business owner. You're a voting member of their district. They want to listen to you.
And
they
especially if you have children and you show up with your children and stuff, it shows that you're vested. You got a lot of reasons to be concerned. So that would be pretty much step 2, right? Because we had 1, then we had step 2, take action. So, and the reason why I want to share this with you pastors is because, a lot of us have been intimidated for far too long. And it's not that, I shouldn't say we're intimidated. It's that we've just been uneducated of how simple the process can be if we just get involved. Because a lot of the legislation, we talk about the religious freedoms, we talk about, the indoctrinating going on our children. It's because people were not taking action. I mean, look at when we had the indoctrinating of our children started, how we started just bringing it out to the public arena, doing press conferences, having rallies,
Right.
Calling our legislators, how we were able to stop a lot of what was going on.
Mhm.
But that took the masses, Here, I think the way we're breaking it down, this is what Jessica, and we also have another gentleman that's going to be there, Kevin McNamee, who has a CEO Act, was a Children's Education Opportunity Act. If you go to educationopportunity.org, we're going to bring them both into your churches so that we can train you as leaders and your church leaders. So therefore you can change teach your congregation how to take action in legislation in California. Jessica, is there anything else you want to cover that you want to tell the pastors why we want them to connect with us, open your doors to us so that we can come in and give you this training? What would you like to tell them?
The time is now. There is no other time to wait and take action, because everything we've seen unfold the last 5 years has been absolutely unacceptable. I mean, from, the COVID shots to the shutdown of businesses to everything, to the crime, to the homelessness, all the problems that have been happening the last few years. Some people don't know how to properly advocate and stand up and say something. And I think by empowering the pastors, empowering you guys to really push your congregation to be more involved and speak up and not be scared, you guys taking that first step empowers others, where one stands up, two stand up, or two stand up, six stand up. And it's really important, I think, for everybody to finally make that decision to say, you know what, enough is enough. And we've seen the winning record already. A lot of bills have been vetoed. A lot of bills have died because of pastors, of church leaders, just any leaders stepping up and saying, you know what, we've had enough. And this doesn't make sense. I would definitely say that. And I would also add that by you empowering your community, you're empowering other pastors to also open up their doors, because they're seeing you as an example. And we've seen it over and over the last few years. Pastors that are like, yes, I actually know this other pastor, and I was so blown away at the way that he ran his church service, talking about the politics really happening here. So it encouraged me to open up my doors and host people here as well that would educate others on what's happening within the local community.
Very well said. So this is what we like to do, pastors. We're going to send this message out to some of you that I know you have a pretty long list. But we'd like to start off by having as many pastors in one location to take this training. And then for those who are interested in proceeding, then we could come out to your churches as well. Extend that training. So here's the important question. Jessica, what's it going to cost everybody?
Your time.
There it is. That's all it is.
Time and effort.
The money, the resources. We have people of God. We have the church that is standing up. The church has been hungry. The reason why we're doing this is because I kind of got to the point where every church I go to, people are saying, "What can we do? What can we do?" I don't have all the answers. But God has put me in a place to meet a lot of the right people, like Jessica Cabrera, who has a lot of the answers, like Kevin Mack, and many others that you're going to meet as we move forward. So if you're interested in getting involved, please contact Benito Bernal at 818-314-5479. Or you can email me at bbb.lahrc@gmail.com. That's bbb.lahrc@gmail.com. Jessica, any final words?
I did want to add that we're actually working to bring back our religious exemptions for school required vaccination. That has been a really big fight in the state of California the last 10 years. We had our religious exemptions taken away in 2015. It's been 10 years of overdue need to look at this bill again. This bill, that into what we're seeing now in the public sector with a lot of the employees employers, employees actually denied their religious rights to not have to get the COVID vaccine. So that is something that we're actively working on, and that's something that the church needs to be involved in and advocate for, because we were far too quiet 10 years ago. We're 10 times louder 10 years later. So I really hope that you guys join us in that fight to restore our religious liberty and our parental rights to make decisions that are best for our children, and make sure they all have access to education.
You know, that is a great point. It's a great ending, Jessica, because for those of you who have been following me for some of you since 2002, you remember me back in 2006 when I told you I heard the voice of God, where the Lord was speaking to me when I had to be Prop 22 or Measure 8, the redefinition of marriage, first one. And we were fighting that as a church, and that's when God started putting it in my ear. Wake up the churches, because this had nothing to do with gay marriage. This had to do with the fact that they wanted a precedent set in the courts, so then they can go after. I want to marry my child. I want to marry my animal. I want to marry my brother. And in 2006, when I approached a lot of churches, the doors were shut on me because people thought I was extreme. But years later, the doors started to open up because people said, "Remember what you said, Benny. Remember, it's not about me." When you're willing and obedient to listen to the Word of God, sometimes you may sound a little bit crazy. But you know what? That's what they thought about our Lord Jesus as well. Sometimes some people thought he was a little bit crazy, but he always proved and confirmed anything that he said. And that's what God does. So now you see the attacks that are going on religious freedom. Like myself, I was forced to resign from work. I was tired to retire early. And this is when I was taking care of my dying mother. But we'll get into that another time. So pastors, I hope that what we said kind of connects with you, and that you take us up on this. This training will be coming up. I would say maybe next month. But we want to get it out as soon as possible. So last words, Jessica.
That's all I got. See you guys, and I'm looking forward to meeting with you and having God bless us all together to make some real impact in California.
Amen. So there it is, Pastor. Thank you. God bless you all. And don't forget 314-547-9479. Call me, send me an email. Let's get this going. God bless you and have a great day.